So thank you everyone for joining us today. It's really exciting opportunity for me to be here because I believe so much in what we're about to present. My name is Tapinder Pillay, and as I said, it's my great pleasure and delight to facilitate today's webinar. I have had, I'm embarrassed to say, over 20 years rolling out different IT systems across corporates, and I'm passionate about the opportunity that corporates provide both within their communities, but also for the people that exist within them. And HR is such a massive, massive opportunity, or not opportunity, but massive important part of every corporate. So I am also, with my new role right now, I am one of the senior project managers at OneCloudX. I'm also one of the senior change managers, but I'm also proud to say that I'm the lead consultant on the Elmo integration for OneCloudX. So it is my pleasure today to bring to you these key subject matter experts to talk to you about how Elmo can integrate with NetSuite, but also what is missing in the people, process, and change perspective that my good friend and colleague Kate will wrap up at the end of our session today. So Rob is driving my slides. So Rob, can you skip through? So today, if you get to the introductions, please, Rob. So without, glorifying ourselves too much longer, these are the people that are here, and it's me, as I said, Robert Jersek, who is the CEO and founder of OneCloudX, which you'll get to know after our conversation with Robert Watson. Also, Robert's in the room today. Robert Watson, partner manager for Elmo, and then Kate Riordan, for a transformation specialist, that will give us these insights as to who do you need to really target in your conversation when you're embarking on a HR platform transformation. Just a bit of housekeeping, guys. I think all of us has been in the Zoom land for the last year, so forgive me if I'm saying it again. I will manage the chat functionality. I'll have multiple times for you to ask questions. I really encourage a robust chat conversation, and if you're possible, I'd love to pull you into that conversation. Our presenters are very happy to be interjected and change their conversation as your questions permit. But at the end of every section, if you're a little bit nervous or shy, there'll be question time. Okay. Also, if you could all put yourselves on mute, just because of the background noise, that would be palatable as well. The other thing as well is this session will be recorded. So if you're not happy having your name or face on our session, please block your video and send us a note, or send me a note, that we make sure that your privacy is what's the word? Lost the word, but permitted. Anyway, it's respected. So without further ado, I'm really excited to, if you can go to the next slide, Robert Jersek, to introduce Robert Watson. And what's so exciting about Robert is he not only has he had many years in the industry, like Robert, I was like, how do I give you this introduction? Even my own introduction, it's like, do we have 20, 30 plus years? And it makes us sound ancient. But it's more that Robert has had many years implementing major transformations across multiple organizations. He's chosen Elmo because he fundamentally believes in the value that this brings, and he's spent many years driving that with a much proven success. But more importantly, which is what excites me, is that did you all know that Robert grew up on the street of an astronaut from the Apollo expedition? So Robert, before you begin, can you explain who you lived on that street with?
Yes, it was one of the Apollo 14 astronauts. I was very, very young, about 5 or 6, and we were living in Houston, Texas, and the NASA Manned Spacecraft Center was down the road, and there was a bunch of astronauts that lived in and around us. And it was just normal for me. So I wanted to be an astronaut when I grew up. So there you go.
Which I absolutely love. And here you are rolling out Elmo. And why do you love Elmo? I mean, this is, I guess, what we're about to see, right?
I guess so.
All right. So guys, as I said, ping the chat, but Rob's got a few slides, and then I've got a couple of questions for you guys, and you've got plenty of chances to interject and ask questions. So over to you, Robert Watson.
Thank you. Well, great to be here. Thanks everybody for your time. We really appreciate it. Okay, so yeah, I've only got a few slides, but I just thought the first slide should be a little bit about us, because not everybody has heard of us. We are a reasonably well-known brand within human resources side of the business, but perhaps not everybody here on this Zoom comes to us from an HR background. So first of all, we're nothing to do with Sesame Street. ELMO stands for Electronic Learning Modular Objects. So we had a very techie background when we first started back in 2002, and we were a learning company. And back in those days, 2002, the founder of the business would look after clients by sending them CD-ROMs of learning capabilities. So that's not very many people still have a CD-ROM attached to their laptops. Anyway, times rolled on. We are now 550 people. We've got 6 offices across Australia and New Zealand. We are recognized as one of the fastest growing IT companies in the Asia Pacific region. And 2017, we listed on the ASX, and we are now part of the ASX top 300. So it has been a wild ride. We are growing roughly about 40% year on year, which is just incredible, and that is set to continue. We consider ourselves the only Australian fully integrated hire to retire platform on the market. We have 16 modules, and we have more modules in the can down with our research and development team to come out. So there's more coming. We are developed in Australia. We are Australian owned. We're hosted in Australia. All of the support comes out of Australia. So be fully assured on that. There's no data that goes overseas. We do have a small footprint in Singapore for customers that wished for it, and we have a small footprint in the UK for customers that wished for it. But if you're based in Australia or New Zealand, you'll be hosted out of AWS in Sydney. Very scalable. We are focused on those organizations that are between 50 and roughly 5,000 employees. So we can scale anywhere up and down between that. Look, it's a fantastic place to work, and it's a fantastic solution to go to market with. Maybe next question, please. Next slide, please.
Perfect. Keep going.
Thank you. Lots of awards. Some of these you'll see they look very similar. That's because we've won them multiple years in a row. The one I really think is probably the most important here is the blue one with the grey in the middle, which is called Information Security Management to 27001 certified. That's an ISO standard. Thank you. That's the one. That's really interesting. So you're going to explain why it's so important to you. Yeah. So we were the first HR solution that's Australian based to get that, as far as we can tell. There's no, we can't find any evidence of anything against that. What that actually is the world leading standard for data privacy and security. So it's actually an approved status from the International Standards Organization. I believe they're based out of Geneva or somewhere. And we've been certified and recertified now for the second time. So it's a really important thing. And look, audience, no matter what solution you go with, whether it whether it's an HR solution or something else, one of our competitors, or even if you're looking at a CRM or an ERP or a logistics solution, you should try to see if you can find something that's ISO 27001 certified, because that ensures that private data is treated the way it needs to be treated. Next slide, please.
I completely agree with you there, Robert. That's a really good call out, is when people are actually just determining who they need to partner with, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, correct. A few these are the industries. We have other industries, customers in other industries, because most companies do need an HR solution, but the areas where we seem to have concentrated are agriculture. We've got we have quite a few wineries now on our books, and interestingly abattoirs as well, but other agriculture as well. But it does seem for some reason to be in those two specific areas. Got quite a few construction organisations. Education is a really booming area for us. We have a number of universities now and schools. To be honest, mostly private schools and Catholic schools. For obvious reasons, there's more money there, I'm guessing, but we do have a number of those, and that not only as existing customers, but a number that we're talking to at the moment. Finance, banking, and insurance and superannuation is big for us. We are, we're not talking about ANZ and Westpac, although one or two of those are clients in particular areas, but for the broader suite of solutions that we have, it's really the second tier banks that are of quite attracted to us. We have some federal, state, and we have a large number of local government agencies as well. Health and pharmaceuticals is a big sector. Mining, not for profit, especially around the NDIS. Now that's the government initiative where the government pays people that need help to stay in their own home. And there's been a large number of organisations start up to provide those services. So the idea is it's significantly better for the patient or customer to stay in their own home as long as they possibly can. Better for their mental health, better for their social well-being. It's a known place, it's a known entity. They know it's their house, etc. And
completely, I'm thinking, Robert, data, like connected data opportunities is really paramount to that success.
Absolutely. Yeah. From an HR perspective, it's the reason that a lot of them are coming across to us is that they need to track various certifications, which are highly important when you're looking after vulnerable people. And so they use that tool within our solution. There's also interesting challenges around rostering, that kind of thing, where we certainly help those organizations, and of course performance management and the like.
Tell me, Robert, how long has Elbow, this is really fantastic. How long has Elbow been in business for? I feel like it's a proven technology. How many years?
Well, we started in 2002. The platform, the platform that we're talking about now, really came into its own, around about the early teens, 2000 teens.
So it's a proven technology platform that's been around for a long time, and you're on the stock exchange, and you're now in government and multiple different facets of activity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So maybe if we go to the next slide. So folks, this is a quick look at the various modules that we have. So each one of these colored columns are what we call our pillars, and each pillar is made up of multiple modules. So we have an end-to-end solution, but you can choose the modules that you require, and then we can help grow with you over time. So for example, if we choose that red one, hire, you can see that we have onboarding and recruitment. So you recruit somebody, that's everything that happens before they sign on the dotted line to become an employee. Onboarding is everything that happens after they've signed on the dotted line to become an employee. Onboarding is becoming more and more important, actually, as people want their new employees to have a really good experience, but also ensure that they get the requisite training straight up. So you can set up the onboarding to say, okay, when we hire a new systems admin, they need to go through these 15 courses before we let them loose on some projects, and you can then track and make sure that those people go through those trainings and that they pass those requisite requirements before they can move on, as a very simple example.
I think it's really interesting, Robert. Like, what do you find I know that Elmo has done some significant research to date in the priorities of HR members. out of that corridor, or we call functions, what do you see in your experience are the main focuses for people today, particularly post the new normal? I hate to use the word pivot, but yeah, what do you see? And then maybe we can get to the audience as a poll.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to go back a little step. What we saw during COVID was a significant pickup in interest around learning management, because people couldn't book the boardroom out. They couldn't fly the speaker in from another state and put them into the boardroom and have the team gather around and cram into the boardroom for 3 days straight to get the training. So we had a significant uptick in interest around ability to provide learning and training in a remote, in the remote setting of people working from home. Absolutely, that's the blue section there. What we also saw for the smaller companies, and let's say below 200 employees, so many of them were still running their HR via spreadsheets and sending spreadsheets around to all these different managers who then download the spreadsheet and play with it and all the rest of it, was an untenable situation, because you've got private data there that people were seeing that shouldn't be seeing it. You had multiple versions of the truth, etc., etc.
You're not the first person, Robert, that's told me that. In my experience over the last 6 months or 12 months since COVID has hit, and it was almost the anniversary of COVID in Australia, really. And I think a lot of companies have done that base level security component, but they haven't actually understood very clearly what happens when you download company files or employee files or pay files to a local laptop or a local computer, and what does that mean and the consequence. So I think that's a really important point. And even though it sounds obvious to me and others, I've just actually taken that on board myself, which is like, IT can only go so far, right? And if you're going to download these files, it's going to end up on someone's local hard drive. That's what's going to happen, unless you have an enterprise solution.
Correct, and that's really an untenable situation. But to answer your specific question, post COVID, and touch wood, we are very lucky living here in Australia and New Zealand that we are in a post-COVID situation, or about to be. What we're finding is there's a significant uptick in interest around the recruitment and onboarding, which is in the hire area. And to some extent reward and recognition as well, because people are now saying, okay, it's gone from being a buyer's market as an employer to a seller's market. In other words, it's again becoming the employee who's beginning to dictate some things. And so we want to keep our good employees. We don't want to lose them, but we also may need to hire some more. So
I think that's really interesting prospect, because you heard like a year or two ago, it was a sort of a buyer's market. So I don't want to, like an employee market where I've got the skills, for example, like particularly in all the areas of technology or cyber or people development. In Australia, it's a very unique market, very tight. But and a lot of businesses were investing in university programs, etc. But now COVID's hit, and then you've got, like as you said, like people where they're dictating how they want to work moving forward. I think this area of talent management and talent acquisition is super interesting, because how do you, not only do you have maybe 1,000 applicants when you may have had 100 beforehand, but how do the teams efficiently respond to this influx of talent, and also on the vice versa, like make sure they nurture that talent to make sure it's not wasted.
Well, and that's exactly where you need a solution like this. I mean, we had a blue collar company in Queensland in the cleaning business, and they had all sorts of problems with seasonality, high turnover, little bit of nepotism, people hiring their mates, etc., etc. And it was all manual and paper based, and their productivity was terrible. They moved across onto the Elmo solution for onboarding and recruitment, and they can now hire upwards of 100 people at a time in a very standardized way. No back scratching going on. They can make sure that everybody's got the requisite requirements before they start, and then that they go through the requisite training before they really, get stuck into it. So
the game changer, right?
Yeah, massive game changer.
So I know that you probably can't divulge the specifics of that company, but if you were to give our audience a bit of an insight of what the value was for that HR company, is it like 20-30% efficiency? Is it something else? What can you give us without giving away the company?
Well, what I can tell you, the figures that I have seen from the consultant who we were working with, that's actually now helping them manage their instance of Elmo, is that they were struggling to hire 5 to 10 people a week, and now they can do 100 standing on their head.
That's fantastic, because I think I just even know myself personally with my network. I'm seeing more and more people applying for jobs, and they were very high paid jobs like Qantas or whatever, that COVID has just shifted everybody into a different spot. And I hate to use the word pivot, but it has. It's actually pushed people to have 2 or 3 potential income sources, and that then goes to flux into HR, and HR needs to work out how to manage that flux with less resources.
Correct.
It's very, very interesting. If you don't mind, Robert, I'd like to do a little poll to the audience, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm just going to launch the poll. So everyone on the poll, it's anonymous. Sorry, bit of a splur there. But I'm really, really interested, given what Robert Watson from Elmo has just presented to us. What are the areas of your organization that you're really focusing on in the next 3-6 months? I don't want 12 months. I don't want 2 years. I mean, I think in this day and age, everybody's looking at 3 to 6 months, because we don't really know when we're going to get locked down again. Let's face it, right? So if you guys could all just have a little poll, that would really help us target the rest of the conversation. I think it'd be also very interesting for everybody on the call. But also, if you would all like, at the end of this call, Elmo has done a really fantastic research piece that we can all share with you as well, that you might be interested with. All right, can everyone see the results? Yeah, no. Can someone give me a thumbs up, because I can't hear you? Yeah, good. Okay, this is really interesting. So this is actually not surprising to me. So Robert Watson, just given what we were just discussing, onboarding recruitment, we've got a lot of people, a lot of talent on the market right now. We've got a lot of talent that we need to onboard. How do we keep them on board? And I think your research suggested something in Elmo that was like $19,000 a user to keep them, to actually get them through the onboarding process, or something of that effect. So don't quote me, guys, but that actually doesn't surprise me. And then payroll. So payroll, reducing efficiency, creating efficiencies within the organization, making sure we pay people on time, particularly in a very complicated environment where maybe we're managing job seeker, job keeper, all that type of activity. That's very, very important. And so we've got recruitment, we've got HR core surveys, just to keep our people happy and well. I mean, I guess over to you, Robert Watson. Is this a surprise to you?
No, it's not. And I'm not surprised to see payroll there as part of the response, because with Australia going to one click what's it called?
Single touch payroll.
Single touch payroll. Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of companies are still working through that and how to do it. And a lot of companies are also asking themselves, do we want to run our own payroll, or do we want to look at outsourcing it? And while we as Elmo don't offer outsourcing, we have a very significant accounting organization that does offer that. And provide that. We still work with the client on the solution, but then once they acquire the solution, they hand basically the keys over to this accounting firm to provide the run and operate service. So those sorts of things are ways in which we'd never really done that until about a year ago we started.
COVID,
it's a significant area of growth for us.
I don't want to delve down into it today because it's not the purpose of the webinar, but I'm also not surprised. I think organizations are clamoring to hire good people, and there's a flux of good people in the market, not for any fault of their own. And then there's also, how do you actually respect and support them through that process, which is something technology can do, but also then how do you maintain and keep them so that you don't remove the investment of you don't reduce your investment in hiring them. So I'm also not surprised of this yet, but that's not the focus of today, but maybe another webinar.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but thank you everyone for participating. We'll take that on board and see if we can develop some next steps on that one.
Yeah.
So Robert Watson, we've got two Robs here. Do you want to continue to next slide, or do you want to?
Please. Yeah, I think yeah. All right, so guys, this is my last slide, and I just thought would give you a taste of where the intersection between the work that we have that we do with OneCloudX and what we saw in each other. And so obviously OneCloudX, most of you would know them, NetSuite specialist with clients that use both the NetSuite solution and the Elmo solution. And I think Robert was very brave when he recognized the strengths of where NetSuite plays strongly and perhaps where they don't, and came to the realization that the two solutions together, 1 + 1 equals a lot more than 2. Because we don't do what NetSuite does and NetSuite don't do what we do. So it really was quite complementary. And the fact that we are hosted in Australia, Australian owned, et cetera, as I said before, was something that was of interest. From us, we're an HR information solution specialist, as we've just been talking about, but we saw the benefit of working with OneCloudX because of their deep skills with NetSuite. We had struggled to get that integration going on our own, and it was hard. But there's a lot of the customers that we target run NetSuite, and so as Robert's team has done with building the NetSuite connector, we saw that as a really positive thing and something that needed to be shouted about, and I guess that's why we're here today.
It absolutely is, and thank you so much, Robert. You've just nuanced my next question so perfectly. Because one of the things I wanted to, and again, there's so many Roberts in my life right now, but I agree absolutely. There is a fundamental gap in the market. This is non-negotiable as what the gap is. But I just want to ask, I want to preempt a question from the audience, and can I be Rob Watson or Robert Jurcek? I mean, has Elmo and OneCloud today got any existing clients that have done this integration and worked together between the two of you?
The answer is yes. We have a couple of clients that are using the NetSuite and Elmo connector. So I'll talk a little bit about that and what we've done.
Perfect. So that might give me a good introduction to you then, Robert Jurcek, as Robert Watson. So I'd like to introduce everybody, Robert Jurcek. He is the CEO and founder of OneCloudX. Robert runs a company that is a multi-partner model across Elmo and Salesforce and NetSuite, etc. We're quite system agnostic. We're really about driving the outcomes for our clients. But as you said, Robert, you have a client right now that is using Elmo and NetSuite in a combination to really drive some powerful results. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, most certainly. So we have a client where we've connected the onboarding process within Elmo to NetSuite. So it synchronizes the employee records between the two systems. In addition to that, and I'll talk a little bit about this as well, is in relation to pushing and pulling information pertaining to payroll, timesheeting, and other bits and pieces as well. So I'll talk a little bit about that. So we've gone live with a couple of them, and we're currently working on the next one as well collectively between the team, which is expected to go live in April. So it's exciting times, and I'll expand on why we've chosen Elmo as a solution for HR in the market shortly. So
okay, that'd be great. Yeah, you go to the next slide.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I just thought I'd throw this slide in relation to who we are at OneCloudX. we started a few years ago now. A few NetSuite consultants had come together with myself, and we started a particular practice because we saw a hole in the market in relation to how customers were utilising the solution and how we could support them better in their journey of utilising NetSuite to its full potential, particularly with all the upgrades that happen every 6 months and not really utilising those to the capacity where they need to. So we started this, and then we thought, okay, now in relation to NetSuite, what other products are there in the market that connect and synchronize well with where they are? And that's why we've chosen Salesforce from a CRM perspective, from a front office perspective, for those complex organizations that have that level of support management and that sales management and that workflow around that. And then we've also chosen Elmo as well from a HR perspective. Now, I came to find Elmo accidentally. I had my stockbroker some years ago come to me and say, "Hey, Rob, I know you want to invest in some technology firms. There's this one on the market." I think it was back in 2016, 2017. And I had a look at it, and I thought, wow, because I've never seen a product in the Australian market that does not just the HR onboarding solution side of it, but also is able to take care of the payroll element, the time and attendance element. There are solutions out there, as we know, around payroll and around time and attendance that connect well into NetSuite, but to do the whole thing and have that separation of employees in one location to do their thing compared to the back office of what NetSuite can do and around the financials and running the operations. I thought that delineation in the two systems was fantastic, and that's why we've embarked on that integration.
Rob, can I just interject slightly? We've had a really great question from the forum, not to interrupt your flow. So Rodney has just asked you, and I think it's a really important question for you. He's not in HR, but he's an ERA implementation PM. He was just asked today by a client, Trans-Tasman, growing company of 120 employees and growing, about privacy for staff, which is a big issue across the board, not just data sovereignty. So employee data privacy, as he's written, just taking his language, is a big concern. I'm getting more and more questions about this. I've never heard of Elmo before today, only CloudTamers, which is very UK focused. Nice to be aware of a local solution to propose for the next phase of project. What do you have to offer, I guess, in your experience of data sovereignty? Also, how does Elmo and NetSuite protect employee information? But also, if you are aware of anything with CloudTamers. And that's also to Robert Watson as well.
So I can take care of the NetSuite side.
Yep.
So NetSuite is as many accolades as you can think of in relation to security. Data is, in this case, housed in either the US or in Australia, but there are plans of having data centers in Australia in the coming months. From a security element, it's 128 encrypted. It's ISO 9001 certified. You think about every single SOC certification that you need around data management, whether it's level or the back office level. They see themselves first and foremost as a security company than actually a solution. So that's from a NetSuite standpoint. From an Elmo standpoint, I think Rob answered a lot of those.
Yeah, he did. But Robert Watson, do you want to add anything more to what Robert Jacek has just explained on the security side? Rodney?
Yeah, look, again, ISO 27001 certified, everything's hosted in Australia. We have a very powerful security firm, security team within the company that looks after and has the ability to override decisions by developers should they feel the need to. That's how important the data, the management and looking after people's data is to us, that they have that authority. I think that we would certainly, between the two of us, be able to help. No question about it. As soon as you're ready, Rodney.
Actually, so Rodney, I've to interject, Robert Watson, I've just allowed Rodney to talk. Rodney, did you want to ask a specific question on that before? Otherwise, we can take it as the generous offer between So many Roberts
Mm.
that we can take this offline, but I hate that offline thing. Did you want to raise a question to the panel?
Yeah, no, thank you. I know Robert Josek. We've spoken a few times on, previously. But yeah, I guess a lot of the concerns, in addition to what you just mentioned now, was also sharing of the data between employees as well. The accidentally somebody seeing someone else's records. That's obviously NetSuite has permissions and all that kind of thing, but there's still a lot of nervousness around that. And that was the big concern today. That was the one thing. The other thing is the data retention. How long do you keep data for? What do you do with it after this? The legislator at the time is supposed to hold the information. Like you have in New Zealand, depending on what type of data, but 7 years. You're required to remove that data as well. So there's a lot of questions around that at the moment.
Thank you so much, Rodney. I might start with Robert Jursak. What's our people today? Robert, can you give some insight into the data retention policy for NetSuite and disaster recovery? And then we'll move to Rob Watson, not Elmo.
Yeah, so I'm not an expert in the area of the back data management of NetSuite, but there are multiple levels of security that you can enforce through this in the NetSuite solution and the data behind it. Now, the actual data itself in NetSuite, once it's entered in NetSuite, there is the ability of archiving it if you'd like to archive it. Otherwise, it's always there. But in terms of security, there's a full audit on every single transaction.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
The same as on Elmo as well, Robert.
Yeah.
And Rodney, you talked about people seeing stuff that they shouldn't see. That is fundamental to Elmo. That's at the policy level, and as you develop policies,
yeah, correct.
You simply set those policies. So I can go in and change my own bank accounts and superannuation funds or KiwiSaver funds in your case. All that sort of stuff. As a user, I can request leave, but you can't go in as me. You can't see any of my stuff. I can go in and see my performance review, but I can't change it unless, but my manager can. So all of those things are at a configuration level, and once you've got it set and you get it done right, and that's very important. You've got to get it done right.
Yeah.
Then those policies kick in, and you're absolutely fine. So you're not going to, as one Rodney, get the wrong pay slip because you're Rodney Durant, you're not Rodney Smith, and Rodney Smith's not going to get those things can't get muddled. But if you're doing things manually, as you well know, they can.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to solve here.
Yeah.
So Rodney, did you want to ask the team any more questions? Or otherwise, we're very happy. I'm also very happy to set up a separate session between Robert Watson and Robert Jursak to deep dive into this issue for you.
Well, I think I think at the right time it will probably be good because some of the projects I'm working on, they are already talking about an HR solution. Normally, in the past, I always used to only get asked about financial side or CRM.
Yep.
And HR has never featured, but now, and I don't know whether that's because of COVID, more and more people are asking about it. And I know nothing about HR. For me, HR stands for something. It stands for human resistance, hiring resistance.
Yes, I love it. Yep.
As a former manager, I've
heard worse.
Had my fair share of battles with HR. Yeah. So especially in my time in Australia, I've worked there for 25 plus years. And,
well, if you're okay, Rodney, I'll circle back to you after this webinar and we will connect you guys with the experts to deep dive into your situation.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to leave in about 10 minutes, but I'll certainly back to Robert. Yeah.
Or tomorrow. Tomorrow is fine.
Yes,
you just respond to me when you're ready.
Yes, no worries.
Yeah, we'd love to help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney. Thanks for the question. All right. Thanks, Robert and Robert. Robert Jursak, do you want to, I just thought it was an important moment to touch on that, go into your next slides.
Sure. So when we were talking to a lot of our NetSuite customers, they came to us and said, Rob, what do you recommend from a HR solution, right? Because we're looking at particular solutions. We need capabilities around onboarding. NetSuite can't do that sort of stuff. We've heard about this other solution. What do you think? And that's when, at that point in time, I even though I knew Almo and what it could offer, that's when I started really, the penny dropped and said, well, you know, there needs to be a connected solution here, because I know Almo can do what it needs to do from a HR in the local market. And the breadth of the solution is enterprise level when you compare it against others that just focus on, you know, very siloed sort of processes like just onboarding or like payroll or they don't do. So then when I recommended the Almo solution and the customer actually selected it through an RFP process and went forward with it, then we actually got asked the question, well, can you integrate it? So the challenges are, you know, that this organisation and these organisations we're talking to, there is no solution NetSuite offers in the local Australia, New Zealand market. So that was their challenge, and that's why they started looking. Before that, they were running all their processes in spreadsheets. They would, like Taminda and Rob mentioned earlier, you know, they're having data move between emails of important and security, you know, sort of information that they shouldn't be, you know, conversing via email on. So then the impact to the business was that there's a level of disconnection that could have occurred as a result of just rolling out these separate HR systems without having that connection back to the ERP like a NetSuite. So whether it's payroll, or it's employees being or it's expenses, whatever it be. So then what we decided, well, we had to actually integrate NetSuite and the HR solution of Almo with the back office financials, so that it's fully synchronized with a friendly architecture that can incorporate nuances with each patient on either side. So you could have different set of structures and fields on the Almo side for employees, and therefore on the NetSuite side, you may need to capture that information in integration in the custom fields across those. Yeah. So it's what we've built is something that is scalable and configurable.
I think that's really interesting, Rob, because like we've been talking a lot about the different challenges between HR and you know, and the business strategy. So guys, after this slide, I'm gonna propose a quick poll. So just if you can have a look about these integrations that Rob's going to present and think about which one's the most priority for you and the most beneficial for your organization, and then we'll do a poll in the slide.
So in the integration, there's two types of customers that we've come across that are using NetSuite. Customers that are utilizing Infinite Cloud Payroll solution in their organization, and ones that aren't using Infinite Cloud or using that side of the solution. So in the integration, this example here is what we've built for when we incorporate the ICS Infinite Cloud solution side of it. So on the Almo side, you have the employee onboarding piece, you have the time and attendance element, the payroll and the leave management. And obviously on the NetSuite side, you have the employee records, the time records, the Infinite Cloud payroll transactions for how you're processing pay for your employees, and obviously the leave management as well, because you want to, you know, synchronize those bits and pieces. So from the actual employee records, we've synchronized the employees. So when they get onboarded into Almo, they actually flow through into NetSuite and update the NetSuite employee record with the relevant fields. As changes occur in the Almo solution from a HR perspective, they also synchronize into NetSuite. From a time and attendance standpoint, in Almo, we're actually synchronized timesheets into NetSuite. So you capture all those timesheets pertaining to that employee record. So whether or not you pay employees, or you pay individuals, or whoever they be, against those timesheets, that integration's there. Now, from a payroll standpoint, from NetSuite, we want to send that information into Almo, because we want the employees to only have access to the Almo environment when it comes to having a one-stop shop for themselves. So therefore they can look at their pay slips, they can look at the leave management, and so on and so forth. So that's why the data is flowing back, because the payroll and financials are sitting in NetSuite, and we need to synchronize that back into the Elmo solution so the employees can see that. From a leave management standpoint, we're actually loading the leave records from Elmo into the leave management of ICS. So you can see that information in NetSuite from an ICS standpoint. So that's in that first example, the type A of NetSuite with ICS.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the second example, which is where an organization who uses NetSuite and is using Elmo, that doesn't use the Internet Cloud Payroll solution, but instead uses the Elmo payroll solution and the Elmo leave management solution. So the only two fundamental changes in that aspect is when we're actually sending the payroll journals per employee into NetSuite Financials, right? So process a pay in Elmo for a particular employee, whether it's weekly, fortnightly, monthly, that information and the financials all gets processed into the back office of the financials of NetSuite, so you can run your reports, so it's all updated accordingly in the back end. From a leave management standpoint, leave is actually managed for employees in Elmo in this situation. So therefore, all the accrual of leave is managed in Elmo, and then all the financial side of those accruals are loaded back into the NetSuite financial solution. So you see all your accruals for each and every employee. So that's pretty.
So I guess what I'm hearing, Robert, is very flexible according to the organization's business remit as to where they keep their source of truth. Is that correct?
Yeah. So in this case, the source of truth is Elmo.
Mm-hmm.
In this aspect, compared to the source of truth in the previous example, is part Elmo and part.
And part. Yeah, and the integrations will work both ways. Correct. I think it's a nice segue then, if I can launch another poll. Robert, Joseph, what do you think? If I can launch a quick poll. I'll launch it now. So guys, one of the things I wanted to ask you, given this information that Robert Joseph has provided, which, after learning about these new integrations between Elmo and NetSuite and noting that you can have the data mastered in any system, depending on your business strategy and your IT strategy, which ones would be most beneficial to your organization? And this instance is anonymous and you can be multiple choice. Let's give everyone a second or 10 seconds to respond. All right, I'll give it another 20 seconds. I feel like I need to have some Michael Bublé music in the background, everyone. Okay, but can a few more people vote, please? That would be fab. I know it's a bit late in the day. So what I'm seeing though is pretty much it's pretty close to the integration of payroll journals by employee and employee onboarding information. I'll give it 5 more seconds, and then Robert Joseph, I'd like to invite you to comment on that insight. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, oh no, clear lead on payroll journals integration, Robert Joseph. So what do you feel about that? Is that consistent with what you're seeing in the market?
Yeah, most definitely. They're the two. So funnily enough, they're the two first integration points that we started. The first customer wanted the employee onboarding synchronized from Elmo into NetSuite, and that was the first integration that we built. And then subsequent to that was the actual synchronizing the payroll from Elmo into NetSuite. So yeah, not surprising.
Yeah, I think it's very consistent with the businesses that we're looking at right now and today and what their pain points are. Yeah. Did you want to go on to the next slide before I move on to Kate?
No, it's that was all I had.
Thank you. So Robert, we've been talking a lot about integrations, and that's very technical process position. What do you do with organizations that don't know their process in that state? Are they they're manually running spreadsheets, and they're doing the best they can, but their organizations are growing or changing, and how do organizations that don't know their processes actually embark on this type of integration? And is that a good segue to Kate?
Yeah. So it's So a lot of the time when they are using HR solutions that are connected back to, you know, an ERP like NetSuite, they're actually sending you know, emails of, can you create this employee, or can you do this, or can you do that? So these processes are kind of
existing
into a manual sort of emailing fest or a shared document on a drive fest.
Yep.
So it's the processes, and that's the irony, right? Because the actual organisation don't really, even though they try to with the IT department and having steering committees, they don't actually talk to each other probably as closely when it comes to back office sort of management.
Yep.
They'll go, and HR will probably go out and find their own solution, do the certain things that meet what they need, but then they may not realise the impacts that has on the finance team, or impacts that has on other parts of the operation in relation to reporting certain dollars. So having that synchronicity between the departments, in this case the HR and the back office of financial is very important.
Super important. Yeah.
Yes, and that's why this integration's been built.
And I think this is a really nice segue, because as you just said, Robert Jacek, and I'm saying Robert Jacek because so many Roberts on the phone, integrations are only successful as the people that are driving it. And Kate is an absolute expert in this place. So I'd like, Robert Jacek, can you flip the slide for me, please, as I introduce Kate? Kate is the founder and Uber person for Power to Process. She's a business transformation specialist. She is vendor agnostic and has had many implementations under her belt, regardless of the technology that she's done. And she's here to tell us about exactly what Robert said. The integrations are only going to be as powerful as the people that you connect. That, and we all know this. Like, I find, like, sometimes I'm like, yeah, but you know what? As busy as we get, it's really important to be reminded of and take away key actions from Kate's experience here. So I really invite you to listen and then question Kate. And I've got a few questions at the end. And I'm so excited to have you here, Kate, as an independent person across business transformation. So over to you, Kate, to present your thoughts on what you've heard today and how you can give some tips for stakeholder engagement.
Thanks, Taminda. I am really excited to be invited to talk at this stage of the process, when we're at the very beginning and people are really thinking about what are my problems, what technology do I need? And I think this is really the point where we need to start thinking about who's going to be part of this project. And there's three questions that we really need to be asking ourselves. The first one is, who's impacted by the decision to use new technologies within our business? Who is going to be making that decision? Does it sit solely with me as the HR manager, or do I need to be engaging the CEO, the senior management, finance? And what support are you going to need to deliver on the implementation of the technology that you're implementing? Because we never work on our own. IT is often really strongly involved, finance is involved, a lot of line managers are involved, middle managers are involved. And so I think it's really important that we ask ourselves those three questions and then involve the answers of those three questions from the very beginning. So when you leave this webinar and you're thinking, wow, this is a great solution for me, go to your organisation and start involving those people at the get-go. This slide, though, is talking also about who needs to be involved throughout the implementation of the project. And I think to help you position your message that you will be giving to different parts of your organisation, this slide really sort of articulates that there are three levels, and that top level really is creating the bandwidth at the leadership level, really creates the bandwidth and sets a priority of your project within the organisation. And they do that, by articulating and connecting it with the bigger visions and goals, and really providing the resources. So really engaging them is super important to get airtime, to get airplay, to remove or to offload work to create the bandwidth. That next layer, which is the middle management, this is the level that is really good at removing blockers or creating blockers for any technology project that occurs. So I really encourage you, when you're looking at starting a project and rolling out a project, engage these people really early. They can be great at supporting change champions. They can be really good at removing barriers for frontline staff, which are often the people that have to engage with the technology. And so it's really important that you get them on board. Most of the projects that I've been involved in, if we've run into problems, it's been at this level, because they haven't been engaged, and they you know, it's almost like they feel left out, and they feel disempowered by that lack of engagement. And we just can't have that at this level. It's too vital to the success of any change project. And then that final area is the frontline management. Really, these are the people that are using this, that often are using the system or need to engage with the system, and absolutely at an HR level, these are our staff that really need to be using the system. And these people are really great at identifying the issues that the technology solution will fix, and understanding the impacts that will have on the business. So engaging them as articulators of those issues, as the users of the system. They make great change champions. There's always a handful that get it, that can see the benefits, that are excited about it and just want to get going. Grab those people as part of your change management plan and use them to encourage and engage the rest of the organisation. So
I love that point, Kate, because you've really sparked something with me. I think there's always passionate people. I think I love to live my remit by that people do the best they can with the resources that they have. You know, they're always trying to do the right thing, regardless of the organisation that you're in. But in your experience, if you were consulting to an organisation that was trying to decide, you know, to embark on an ERP and a HR platform, but they had no business processes, how would you direct? Or two things, or in your experience, who comes to you, just an observation, and how would you direct them to actually develop their processes before they develop the technology? Because quite often, as I think all of us as technology professionals, we can build what they've already got today, but as we know, rubbish in, rubbish out.
Yeah.
How do you? Yeah. So what you know to be true, what's your experience?
It's a great question, Taminda, and I think it really is important to understand that technology supports your existing processes. So if you don't have great existing processes, or you don't understand them and can't articulate them, it's very hard for technology providers to come in and do the best for your organisation. There's nothing wrong with their technology. That's often not the problem, and that is often what I see when you implement technology in a business. And it doesn't work, or there's issues with it. It's not the technology and it's not the system, it's the lack of process and understanding who will be responsible for it. So I think my advice is that really map your processes and understand how the comms and the data and the information flows through your organisation, and who's responsible for it, and who triggers it, and who owns it, and who's involved in it. And you know, I mean,
would you also say how important it is? Like, what? Because I see so often some organizations capturing data, and they're like, well, I'm like, why are you capturing it? And they're like, I don't know, because the person told me beforehand.
We see that a lot of band-aids that when you challenge why are we doing it that way, there's a lot of, well, that's because we've always done it that way. So it's a great opportunity, and that's why I got into process improvement, is because there's so much opportunity to really get the process right, and then you bring the system in, and the organizations just fly, because the system supports really great process, and really makes it a lot easier for businesses.
And do you find in your experience as well, and I'm conscious of time because we're running out of time, guys, so give me just 2 more minutes, do you find in your experience that the return on investment is quicker if you actually invest in the process?
Absolutely 100%. Otherwise you're automating bad process. Putting lipstick on a pig, as sometimes we hear as well. Thank you so much, Kate. I know that we were running out of time on this, but everybody, I'm just excited that you're thinking about it at this stage and that you see the value in it.
And I agree with you. I mean, as a passionate change manager as well, and a 6-year black belt, it's so important that we're pushing process and transformation, and have the likes of Kate in this to drive that message. And thank you so much for being part of the panel. I'd like to thank Robert Jurcek and Robert Watson and Kate for being part of my panels today. This is literally an hour full of jam. Honestly, we could talk to you for 8 hours. Maybe you didn't want to listen for 8 hours. So we try to jam it into an hour, but we're so excited and happy to continue this conversation for each and every one of you. So we will be in touch, but also we have an offer that Rob is just going to show us. And it's a really exciting offer. If you book with us a meeting, and you don't have to have the meeting in the next couple of weeks, you just need to book it. Just super easy, guys. Just book it, right? And then you can have a joint discovery with all of us about how your HR strategy or IT strategy is going to connect the data, the business, the process, the people. You have the likes of access to Robert Watson and Kate Riordan and Robert Jessic and myself. It's going to be super exciting. You just need to book it. You don't need to do it. But we will be in touch with each of you. But if you do so, you'll get a 3 months free subscription with Elmo over a 3-month contract, which is actually huge. So pick up the phone, send us an email. As I said, you don't need to do it in the next month. Just ring us to say, we want to book with you, and we will be there and we will support you in this journey, because we're very passionate about it, as you can see. And we can talk for hours. But so any questions, just ping me, ping anyone on this call. Just quick run through the panelists. Anything else you want to say, Robert Jessic, before we go?
No, thank you for the opportunity to,
It was great. Thank you for your time, Robert. Robert Watson, anything from you before we go?
Look, thank you again. We look forward to talking with the panel, the attendees.
Yeah. And Kate, thank you so much for joining us and with that agnostic, independent, observation of your experience in implementing IT and transformations. Anything you want to add before you go?
No, just enjoy the journey.
Enjoy.
Involve as many people as you can.
Yeah, I agree.
Dividends at the end.
Yeah, I think it's a really exciting time for HR and IT. And I also am really excited to hopefully meet with you all very soon. But please contact us and we will have that discovery session with each of you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and we'll send you all a link to our recorded video. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care, stay safe, and we'll all see you very soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.